Hi, guys. Trevor Swenson. Through the Darkness, my journey with PTSD and trauma and stressor related disorder. I'm glad to be with you today. I'm really glad that you're with me today. I want to talk about a topic today that I've been avoiding purposefully. This will be the 20th episode, and I've been purposely avoiding it for a reason. For for personal reasons, because it's very difficult to talk about, and also because I wanted to make sure I got it right and I was very, very clear on how the situation, if you will, affected me. And that topic is suicidal thoughts and suicide. And I'm going to level with you today, and this is one of the things about being purposeful in my journey through the pain and the loss and the daily suffering and the patient endurance of PTSD that I want to get right, and I don't want to leave out the difficult topics to talk about. And it's been about a year now that has passed since I made that decision in my head that I wanted to take my own life. And the circumstances surrounding it, I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about what ultimately happened, that I can only explain as God's hand was on the whole thing all along. I had hit a point where essentially I had lost everything that has worldly value, if you will. My career was over. I was unable to work. I was unable to finish out the year even on a very modified schedule. I was feeling terrible every single day, physically and mentally. The depression was overwhelming. The anxiety was overwhelming. The anger was overwhelming. And I just saw it as being something that was that which was going to be my existence from that point forward in my life. And I didn't think it was worth it. And boy, was I wrong. I drove to a place, a big dam that I grew up around, and was hoping that the water conditions would be right to take my life by jumping off of the dam spillway on a major dam on the river. And when I arrived there, there was nobody there, and I had brought my older dog, not my new dog, Murphy, and had just decided that if the water conditions were correct, that today was going to be the day. And as I stood at the railing with my dog laying at my feet, something interesting happened to me. As I was staring into the rushing, boiling, roiling water, I happened to look to my left, and there was a person standing next to me. No idea where this person came from. And they had a fishing rod, and it was a young man, probably 16 years old, and made no eye contact with me and didn't say anything, and was standing about 4 feet away. And as I was processing that, I looked to my right, and another person appeared, a 12 or 13-year-old kid. Again, no eye contact, didn't say a word, and was just standing there. And in disbelief, I looked to my left again, and between myself and the first gentleman that was there, another person appeared. And when I say appeared, I have no idea where these people came from. And while this was transpiring, my dog was still laying at my feet. My dog is a very social dog, and my dog didn't even lift his head off of the cement landing that I was standing on over the spillway. And during that time frame, the first person that appeared caught a fish and brought this fish in, and this fish was an odd-looking fish. I used to fish a lot, and I was a bass fisherman, and he caught a smallmouth, but it was the most odd-looking fish I've ever seen in my life. It looked like a biblical fish, if you will, like no dorsal fin, and it just looked like a fish that if you were reading a Bible story, that's what a fish would look like. Can't really explain it. But an interesting thing happened. My dog, Ollie, that was with me, if there's one thing he's most passionate about that drives him absolutely bonkers and absolutely crazy, is fishing. And if you set the hook in a boat, if you catch a fish, if you have a fish on, that dog is absolutely out of his mind crazy as far as stimulation goes. And as this kid lifted this fish over the railing I was standing up against over the spillway, the fish came off of the hook and landed about 6 inches off the end of the nose of my dog. My dog never lifted his head. My dog never perked his ears up. My dog acted like it wasn't even there. Unbelievable. Now, who those kids were, why they showed up, how they showed up, I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that those three, whoever they were, God knew that they were going to be there. God knew exactly where I was that day. God knew what I was thinking that day. God knew what I was thinking the entire drive to that place that day. And to me, it was God saying, "You're not done yet. You're not done yet." And having a year to reflect on that whole situation, the day, the morning, the trying to figure out where those three people appeared out of nowhere from, why there was never a word spoken, why they never looked at me standing within 2 feet of me, two of them, why my dog never reacted to the fish flopping in front of its nose. I can't explain any of those things. But what I can tell you is that I'm here today, and that the things that have happened since that day that I would have missed out on, I can't imagine having missed out on them in life. And even though the last year has been unbelievably difficult, there have been times when people in my life have needed me desperately for love, for edification, where strangers have needed me for love, for edification, for something that I was personally equipped to help them with at the moment. Suicide is not the answer, ever. I get very emotional when I think about it, when I know that there are two sides to this world continually warring at each other for each one of us and for the person that we were created to be, to walk in his purpose and to be a reflection of God. He did not create us to take our own life. He created us that his glory might be shown through him. And in the fog of PTSD, I want you to remember that, and I want you to make sure that you get help if you have any of those suicidal thoughts, because it is a very real thing that comes with the battle of PTSD. I will also tell you that out of 100 people that know me, if you took 100 people that know me, either that worked with me or knew me or family members, I would have been probably considered the last person in the world to ever consider doing something like that. And there I was standing on the dam spillway on a July day, going to do exactly that. There is great purpose in life, and the thief of PTSD has a very real side of pushing you to that edge at times. And I want to remind you that you are an absolutely perfect gem, absolutely perfect, loved beyond you, whatever you could ever imagine. You are loved by your Creator. You were made, you were handpicked, you were found before you were ever lost. He loves you in your brokenness. He understands where you're at. And as you are feeling worse, and as you are feeling more hopeless, the closer He becomes to your situation. Suicide doesn't relieve the pain. Suicide is a pain multiplier. As I thought of those three people standing next to me, I had time to reflect that. I asked the question, what if that was my dad and my brother and one of my best friends? Out of the many people that I know love me dearly, what if it was my daughter and my wife and my oldest son? Think about that. You are loved and you are valuable and you have great purpose, a great and perfect purpose to walk out, to be a reflection of His glory and His love for you. I've had a lot of time to think and reflect about that day, and one thing that keeps coming into my head is that Christ died for me that I might live and not die, and to live life abundantly. Suicide is not the answer. And I'm so glad that I didn't go through with it, because over this past year, as difficult as it has been, as I touched on as I started, the number of people that I have been able to show His goodness to show my purpose in life, to speak over, to speak into, to encourage, to help in a similar situation. What is that worth? What is that worth? It's absolutely priceless. It's my purpose. All of this work that I've done on this YouTube channel, and it's just amazing that the sun is peeking through the trees right now and shining down, which is absolutely of no coincidence. I'm a believer that nothing in life is of coincidence. Suicide is not the answer. But at the same time, it is a very real thing that you may struggle with if you have PTSD and trauma and stressor-related disorder. I'm asked about it all the time in care, and there are times that, unfortunately, when I answer the questionnaire, that are there nights that I feel like that when I fall asleep, I just don't wake up the next morning. I still have to fight those thoughts, because there are very rough days, that are very tough, dark days, that are very painful days, but they are nothing compared to the purpose that your life has, and they are nothing in comparison to the value that you hold in the eye of your Creator. You are absolutely perfect in every way in the eyes of the one that created you, in the eyes of the one that sent His only Son to die for you specifically. He knew you before you ever were. He knows exactly where you're at. And I know that over time, as people listen to these videos, there will be people that have considered it or are considering it, that I want you to think about who you are and whose you are, and how He looks at you, and what your purpose in life is. You have purpose. You were designed with a specific purpose. You are loved, and you have what it takes to overcome all of those dark thoughts. There are so many people out there that would want to know exactly where you're at. Tell them, pick up the phone, text, call a hotline. There are hundreds of resources out there. Your life is valuable. You are valuable. Christ died for you specifically so you might live. That's what it comes down to. I've been there. It is not the answer. It is absolutely not the answer. It is scary, and it may seem like the only solution. It is not the answer. It is not the solution. When I talk about breaking the trauma cycle, I think about, had I gone through with what I had planned on doing that day, I cannot even imagine or put into words the level of trauma that I would have created in this world because of my misguided thoughts and actions. I cannot imagine the grief of my daughter. I cannot imagine the dysfunction that it would wreak on her life for the rest of her life. I cannot imagine my wife going through that. I can't imagine my father and my mother going through that. I can't imagine my best friends going through that, my siblings, my in-laws, the people I've worked with. It would have created trauma and destruction and would have not solved anything. Your life, no matter where you are at in life, no matter what you are up against, is worth so much more than you might be feeling. God is closer to you than He will ever be at that exact moment. Please ask Him to be part of your processing of those dark thoughts as you get professional help. Never skip the professional help. One of the most humbling things and most rewarding things that happened to me is that I gained a whole new respect for the community of people that all they do is love on people that are broken. I'm broken, you're broken, we're all broken. And there are people out there that dedicate their entire life to make sure that we are living out our purpose, that we are living out our life in a way that is noble and admirable and puts other people first. It will fill your cup. So I just ask you to break the trauma cycle. Let the PTSD and the trauma end with you. Suicide does not do that. Suicide multiplies pain and it multiplies trauma. Don't do that. Get help. Understand you're not alone. Understand I've been right there with you. I've been there with other people. And you will look back and you will be thankful because your best days are ahead of you. Your best days are ahead of you in spite of the trauma you've been through, in spite of the PTSD. You are loved. God loves you. And I just hope today's message, as personal as it was to me, is helpful to you. And I hope you click and subscribe, and I hope you walk with me through my journey in hopes of being encouraged, in hopes of finding hope and finding purpose and living that life that you were specifically, fearfully, and wonderfully made to live. That is a rewarding life. I can't wait to be with you next time. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for listening to this talk. Take care. Be well, and don't be afraid to get help.